when we look at some of the challenges, and we actually always think of them as opportunities, and so one of them was record keeping of and identifying the individual animals and seeing which ones did the very best and ended up the best performers to provide the very best beef. And through an individual identification system, we can identify these cattle and follow their complete health records right through to the consumer.
I think some of the challenges, or as my dad says, opportunities, is when we're working with some of our customers is always the carcass balance and the supply and demand. When starting with processing 2 animals and a customer wants, enough tenderloins equivalent to 500 animals, we need to find a way to work together to get to where we both can achieve the volumes in supply and demand. And in working with Champion, they've been great. They've, taken as much as we can supply, and we've grown with them, and we've given them forecasts of where we see us growing, and hopefully their volumes are growing in sync.
Well, we've really enjoyed working with the Kalina group, as they've really embraced our concept of using whole lambs. So they're a really innovative restaurant where they'll take our whole lamb program and they'll order 20 to 40 lambs at a time. And that gives them a variety of different cuts. It means that the chef has to be really flexible on what they're putting on the menu. So what they actually do is, instead of having us directly on a menu and you see, rack of lamb, which we wouldn't be able to supply, throughout an entire year, they actually have a Tangle Ridge special that they run weekly. So then they can use up all those different cuts. We've also actually, on partners, brought in our processor, which is Prairie Pride Meats, and we brought him to the meetings with Kalina and had him sit down and listen directly to Christine and Brad on how they want to have it cut, so that we can come up with some really interesting ways that they can prepare lamb and come up with some really unique dishes that they can use as their specials. So all throughout the year, you'll find different features at Kalina using our lamb.
Yeah, for example, with Tangle Ridge Farm, my chef and I were able to sit down with the owners, Vicky and Shane of Tangle Ridge Farm, and their butcher, and sit there and hammer out. We had purchased or reserved basically 20 lamb from them to be processed in the fall, and we sat there and figured out how, exactly what the cuts we wanted that would suit us the best and what was easiest for the butcher. So really, it was really interesting. It's so very direct. We're not dealing with anyone else. We're going right to the source with the couple that raised the lamb, and then the butcher that's processing them for us.
My advice to people who would be looking at partnering would be that you have to be patient, and you also have to meet in the middle. You may not be able to achieve that volume or achieve that price point, but there may be some other way you can work together to get to the final endpoint that you both desire.
The advice I would give is look at your options, see what you're producing, see what your environment is good to produce. And if you have animals that qualify and meet the requirements that the consumer wants, it's definitely a project or a program to get involved with.
Be really clear up front on what you can do and what you can't do and what your limitations are, so that way everybody is clear on what's happening and nobody's disappointed at the end of the day.
A big part of, like Vicky mentioned before, was when we brought our processor together with our chefs and had sort of a big meeting and really decided what everyone was looking for out of the partnership, so that when you come away from the meeting, everyone's happy. There's no surprises at the end of the day. The chef is happy with the cuts he receives. The processor knows the workload that he's going to be stepping into, so he can charge accordingly. And we can supply the lambs at the times that the chefs need, and we're going to be supplying the cuts that they require. So then at the end of the day, everyone's happy. Everyone is, I guess, making money, which is a good thing. And those relationships are solidified.
Not to be afraid to say this is what we offer and this is what we do. Try not to be, say a vegetable farmer, for example. This is what I can grow and this is what works for us, and not have the chefs always dictate exactly what they want grown. So that it opened up the communication between the chef. Don't undercut yourself to a point where you can't afford to, you can't be in business anymore. Well, that doesn't do anyone any good. Like, just be like, this is what I need, and again, then that communication open. How can we save money? Maybe you can use the cuts a bit differently or use the vegetables a little bit differently.
Customer-focused collaboration is a key element for remaining competitive in the agriculture and food sector. A positive, winning attitude while meeting the challenges of working with partners in your value chain can help to ensure your success.